unusual meeting tonight. We are a group that does provide consultation and support on technical issues. And this is a case where when I read the ballot question, my jaw dropped and I said, oh my gosh, we really need to be talking about this. I'm a computer repairman and I don't understand this ballot question about computers. And I knew that we were in trouble. So what we've done is reached out to a variety of people, including the proponents, the pro and con proponents who signed the pro and con statements in the ballot. They're both here. Tommy Hickey is here. Hello, Tommy.
Hey, how are you? Sorry I'm late.
Thank you. You're hardly late. And Connor Units is also here. Hello, Connor.
Hello.
And the format is going to be, we're actually going to open with a film. After we do a brief introductions, I'm going to show you a film that was run on Wired, showing two young men who were able to turn off a car's engine while the car was driving on the St. Louis Expressway. And I do this to emphasize that the stakes here are very, very high when we're talking about cars and computers. There are real safety issues that we need to be thinking about. And I thought it'd be interesting for people to see this. I'm thinking in the interest of time, I'd love to know who everyone is. So what I'd like to do is just briefly go in and say who you are, a word or two about yourself, and then move on to the next, we'll move on to the next person. Jay, could you start?
All right, my name is Jay Hoffman. I take part in Adams groups, tutor math, and do office work, and that's about it with me.
Thank you, Jay. Paul Roberts, welcome. Paul, are you there?
Hey, I am. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Thanks for having me. My name is Paul Roberts. I am the founder of a group called SecureRepairs.org, which is a group of information technology and information security professionals who support a digital right to repair. It's a group that I founded. And we have been very involved in advocating in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and other states that are considering digital right to repair legislation on behalf of that. And I have, along with some other prominent Secure Repairs members, published an op-ed both on our website and then most recently in the Herald, arguing in favor of question 1 and expanding the state's existing auto right to repair law, the only right to repair law on the books anywhere in the United States.
Thank you very much. John Minsky. John, you've got to unmute. I can't hear you yet.
Yeah, memory's slipping. I'm a mostly retired electrical engineer. I do occasional consulting. My specialty is network installation and operation. And this topic is of particular interest to me because my new car has telematics, and I find it disconcerting. Let me put it that way. Not necessarily good or bad, just disconcerting at times.
Thank you. Steve Eisenberg, treasurer of BNUG.
Hi, I'm Steve Eisenberg. I'm treasurer of BNUG. I've been associated with it for quite a few years. I'm currently teaching at Boston University, and other than that, I'm pretty much retired, but keeping very busy.
Thank you. Connor?
Connor Units, the spokesperson for the Coalition for Safe and Secure Data and the No on One campaign. And I've invited a couple of folks on our end, Asaf Harel and Brian Short from Karama Security, to be able to answer. Adam warned me there would be very technical questions, so I wanted to make sure I brought in technical experts to answer them.
Thank you. Martin Kadansky.
Hi, everybody. I'm Martin. I'm an independent computer consultant. My specialty is working with clients one-on-one and helping them learn how to use their computers better. So I often call myself a computer driving instructor or computer therapist. And if I have somebody who needs repair work, I refer them out to folks like Adam, because I don't like to do that kind of stuff, especially if I'm touching a fragile house of cards and then I have liability, for the thing turning to dust. I also write a free monthly email newsletter where I try to write about the things that the average computer user struggles with, and either have suggested solutions or things to think about, or at least commiseration. I met Adam years ago. I did a postcard mailing looking for new clients, and he just happened to see it on somebody's desk. He doesn't remember whose, and we've been great buddies ever since. And I try to give him all my reusable but discarded electronics that clients are getting rid of when they upgrade their computers. So I suggest you guys all to do the same.
Thank you. Just a note on that. I also, in addition to being a computer helper, I also help run a computer clinic where we refurbish computers for families that can't afford them. And so just a reminder to everyone who has customers or other people who need to donate equipment, we welcome everything and really appreciate your donation. And we also provide full computer systems for families for $50 with a lifetime warranty. So let me know if you know a family that might need a computer. I'd be really happy to help. Mr. Boudreau. You'll have to unmute. There you go.
Yeah. Hi, folks. I'm Jerry Boudreau. I have a background in healthcare IT. This topic actually sparked my interest, so I'm here to learn about what it's all about, and hopefully I'll be in a good situation going forward.
Thank you. Tommy Hickey.
Hi, I'm Tommy Hickey. I'm the director for the Right to Repair Coalition, and we are for Yes on One.
Thank you. Chris Gruska. Chris, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Chris Gruska, I'm a software engineer, occasional attendee to the Boston networking user groups. And with the technical background, I want to understand more, about what's behind this law.
Thank you. Suki Swoboda.
My name is Kathleen Swoboda. I do bookkeeping remotely for people and some design work in landscaping. And I love computers. That's all, mostly.
Thank you. Asaf.
Hello, I'm also a software engineer, a cybersecurity expert in the field for about 25 years, in the automotive and other IoT cybersecurity business for more than 5 years, working with the industry on, elevating the boundaries for hackers to come in.
Thank you. Norm? Norm, we've got a high-speed phone. Norm, there's something wrong with your sound. I think you need to go out and come back in again. Sorry. I'll come back to you. Drew?
Mute. Okay, Drew King, longtime BNUG member, work in computer IT. Interested in, I don't know why I'm curious about the meeting tonight, just because it's a ballot question in Massachusetts and what it relates to BNUG, how it relates to BNUG. And that's about it.
So I'm actually going to cut this a little bit short. I'd love to know about everyone else, but Tommy, if I understand you correctly, you need to leave shortly. You're on a tight schedule.
Yeah, I have a 7 p.m. So if we could get going, you guys a lot of you are cybersecurity experts, so I can kind of lay out where we are in terms of the initiative process and the language, and try to answer questions as I can till 7.
Why don't you take the floor then?
Sure. So thank you for having me. Like I said, I think you guys are definitely the cybersecurity experts compared to me, as we usually are talking to the common folk, and I think you guys are, and they say Boston wicked smart. So I'll try to do my best to answer anything I can. So my name is Tommy Hickey. I'm the director of the Right to Repair Coalition. We are a coalition of 1,600 independent here in Massachusetts. We represent over 40,000 jobs here in the aftermarket, and we were the coalition behind the 2012 Right to Repair law. That law passed at 86% in the ballot. It's the highest passing ballot initiative in Massachusetts history. And what it did was mandate that car manufacturers give the same diagnostic repair information to independent repair shops that they give to their franchise dealers. What it did was mandate a level playing field for repair, but also to make sure that consumers could get their cars fixed where they want. Fast forward 7 years, 8 years, and technology has obviously evolved, and everything in the car is no different. Your car is now a computer on wheels. There was a carve out in the 2013 law for remote diagnostics, telematics. It's a wireless communication system. There are now sensors all over your car that can tell you how your car is operating, and diagnostic repair information that does not get to the owner and does not get to the independent repair shop, and that the car manufacturers have a monopoly on. So we are going to fix that initiative, or fix that loophole in the law with this ballot initiative in 2020 to update and enhance the 2013 right to repair law. What this ballot initiative will do is give the owner direct access to all of their diagnostic or repair information that is generated by this wireless system, and with owner permission, allow the owner to share that information with an independent repair or a dealer of their choice. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We are 40,000 jobs here in Massachusetts. We are AutoZone. We are O'Reilly Parts, who obviously do a ton of business with independent repair shops. And we are up against the car manufacturers, $30 million in Detroit. And we feel pretty good, but be happy to answer any questions or any concerns that I'm sure you guys have.
Tommy, if I could ask you, the core question on my mind is, if this law passes, will my independent car repair person have access to any personal information about me?
No, and that's a good question. I should have gotten to that. I'm sure you guys have seen the advertisements about the car manufacturers talking about personal information. They've even brought in sexual assault and domestic violence with a group called Jane Doe that actually did not give them the authority to use them in their advertisements and out to the voter guide books. But this is not about personal information. This is not about GPS information. It says in the actual language of our ballot initiative that this is about information, mechanical information necessary to diagnose, maintain, and repair the car. That's what the Attorney General summarizes that as well. And that is not GPS information, and that is not personal information. In fact, in the car, there's personal information, then there's mechanical information. What we're after is mechanical information. We're a coalition of people that fix cars for a living. And if there's a more efficient, more technology-driven way, we need that information to stay up in a competitive market.
So if I understand correctly, what the law says as you read it is that all cars that are manufactured or sold in Massachusetts will have to give their mechanical information up to anyone the owner of the car chooses.
It's only so we'll give it directly to the owner, and the owner could only share that with an independent repair or a dealer of their choice.
Okay.
The platform doesn't allow for anyone else to get that information, just an independent repair or a Class 1 dealer.
And you are saying that the law as written says it only applies to mechanical information and definitely does not apply to any other information.
Correct. Yeah. And we expect the car manufacturers, they're responsible for creating this platform. We expect that they create this in a way that is only mechanical information, because that's what it calls for in the ballot itself.
Thank you. Do other people have questions for Tommy before he needs to go in about 15 minutes?
How is the information shared? How would it?
So it would be accessible to the owner by a mobile application on your phone, on your dashboard. It would be basically real-time diagnostics and health of your car that would be going through this mobile app. And then you could share that. It's no different than a lot of the apps that are on your phone today. I mean, I have an app on my phone that controls every dollar I've ever had. And there are obviously ISO standards that you guys know about that can protect this information, encrypt this information. But it would be exactly what an app does right now, which would be able to share that with an independent repair and shop around for the best choice for the consumer in their car repair.
So with the independent shop, how would they get that information?
So they would have the same kind of app on their computer. As you know, we're moving to a pretty wireless society. They would have a software, they would have an authorization system. There would be a certification process in which an independent repair would have a gateway to safely and securely get the mechanical information from the owner.
I should add as well that actually automakers already have mobile apps like this. Ford has a mobile application called Ford Pass that Ford vehicle owners can download that transmits information like the VIN, the key ID, hardware, fluid levels from the engine, and so on to Ford's cloud. So these mobile apps already exist, are already being made by automakers. This law would merely say, if you're transmitting that information to your authorized dealers and to your repair cloud, you need to make it available to the owner of the vehicle as well as to their agent and independent repair shop. So this is not requiring anything that automakers are not already creating and have already deployed. They're in production, and Ford Pass is just one.
Can these, Steve, go ahead.
I just want to ask a question. And I was a little bit out, so I may have missed some of it. If this passes, will the car driving next to me be able to take over control of my car?
No, this would be just for the car owner. So as a car owner, you would only get the mechanical information generated by your car. You would not have access to anyone else's car. This is just direct access by the owner of the car.
Would someone be able to come up with a hack that could get into my car?
No, this should be done in a safe and secure way. I think Paul could probably speak to the cybersecurity of this, but this is diagnostic and repair codes. There should be no way to hack a car and take over a car because of this ballot initiative as written.
There are cybersecurity risks to cars with internet connections. The Velasek and Miller demonstration is just one of those. If you're going to have a car with an always-on internet connection and a bridge between the internet and the car network, there is a risk of hacking. That is on the automakers to decide whether the risk of hacking a vehicle, is one that they can manage. But this law does not speak at all to the fact that there are cyber risks to having internet connected cars. There are.
I should also mention
that doesn't preclude the right of owners to get access to the data that they're generating on their vehicle.
On my 2008 Chevy, it used to email me diagnostic reports every month. So, all this nonsense by the car dealers in the car industry that people can hack your car, they can break into your house, they can do whatever, is a lot of nonsense to just keep control of the system.
No, but there are reports. There are people that demonstrated.
Hold on. One person at a time. Asaf?
Yeah, well, there are demonstrations of people being able to take control of cars. It's not some stories. There are actual attacks.
Okay.
The only thing that I can say is that OEMs are building their defenses very.
Asaf, excuse me. Paul just said that.
Yeah.
Did you hear him?
Yes, I did.
He just said what you just said. I just want to make sure you guys are on the opposite side, but you guys are agreeing.
We are agreeing. The only thing that I wanted to say is that OEMs are working very hard. This is from our internal discussions with them to make the barriers of entry very high as possible, and this bill is just gonna raise them to the ground level. It's just gonna be so much more easy to get into a car.
It's not. So what you're saying is you're agreeing with Paul that hacking is a danger.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this bill will increase the risk of hacking. That's why we're here, is to talk about that thesis. I think that is the difference. If I understand correctly, the difference between your two groups is that the group that's representing the right to infringement dealers have access to mechanical information from the cars is saying that there's no increased risk by allowing this information to get access. And you folks are claiming there is an increased risk.
Yes, because they specify exactly what will be the mechanism. They say
more what you mean by specify?
They specify in the bill. The language of the bill says you have to open access to the diagnostic controller. And you have to have access from that diagnostic controller to send commands to other controllers in the car that they will send back the information required. Now, I'm telling you as a cybersecurity expert, this is all I need to start with. It gives me the access into the vehicle. Now, I have to
That
find
access
vulnerability.
already exists, Asaf. That access
It
is already
already
there.
exists.
All you're
No,
saying
no,
is
no,
that
no,
already
no.
have
It's
it.
not standardized. It's not
Okay.
no,
as easy
okay,
as.
it's not standardized, but that
Hold on,
doesn't
Paul.
mean it doesn't exist.
Paul, let him speak.
Any
You'll have
half
your
decent,
time.
any
Paul, you'll have your time. I
embedded
promise.
device hacker worth
Let-
their salt
Paul,
doesn't care if it's
Paul, we're
standardized or
trying to
not.
set an example for President Trump. Everyone take your time, okay? So,
And I will mute myself.
Kind of late for that.
Please.
Yeah.
finish.
This information is available indeed through standardized way, but only to the dealerships that are working with the equipment, with the right equipment. Now, which is certified. Now, what they're saying grant access to everyone. And what and this is, of course, this is a a pure and great idea, right? I support it from the bottom of my heart, but it's impossible in our reality. In the reality, it's impossible. You just granted access to every hacking group into your car, and the reality is that hacking groups are looking for ways into your car, and you just granted it to them, and for at no price.
Thank you, Asaf. Now, we have a number of people who want to speak. I know that Tom needs to leave. Paul, can you stay here for the duration? Paul?
Yes,
Robert?
first of all, let me.
No, hold on a second. Before you speak, I'm just trying to get timing here because we want to try to be friendly. So
I might be able to come back too. I can.
Oh, were you asking me if I had a limitation?
there was a scheduling question, yes.
No.
You're okay. So Tommy, you'll be able to come back? We'd like to have you back.
I'll be able to come back after I present to this next group.
Yeah, that would be great because I think, as you see, there's a lot of controversy here.
And
hold on a second. I'm just going to see who has hands up. Make sure everyone. I see.
I was going to say, just use the hand raise feature, and that should make it a lot more.
You can, or your hand. I can see your hands very well. But I just want to say, Steve Provost is next.
Okay. I just recently saw a story on YouTube about some gentlemen that first off they had computers and they had a computer with them, and apparently from the story that I saw on YouTube, they're saying first off they started off with hacking into the computer within the automobile, right when they were with the automobile in moving from one place to another. And then the second phase of that particular thing, they actually were at another location outside that particular car at someone's house, and they were actually able to get into the electronics of that particular car and change and start doing things within the car, not to endanger the person, but to like put up a little picture on the person's little screen on the thing, turn on the radio, make the flasher flash, just small things like that. So people are able to get into
Steve, I should add that they went on to turn off this person's engine while he was on the St. Louis freeway.
Yeah. Oh, you saw that one too.
They also turned off.
This is Charlie Miller and Chris Valasek, who did this demonstration back in 2015 on a Jeep Cherokee.
Yes.
There were other researchers at the University of Washington and other institutions who had done similar demonstrations. Miller and Valasek did a very similar demonstration on a Toyota Prius in 2013 or 2014, but just via the OBD port and with a physical connection. And then in 2015, they did it wirelessly. So yes, this is
a real problem.
Well established.
It's a really serious problem. Jeff Katz. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Adam. Listen, as someone who's been a longtime member, I don't know that I've ever recalled jumping into the meeting and see it in full swing on the main subject before 7. I got in about 10 minutes ago, and this thing sounds like it's been going on an hour. For those of us who weren't here at the very beginning, could you stop for a second, do a recap on who's here and what's been said and where things are at?
Sure. So for people who have arrived late, the purpose of this meeting is to have a free-floating discussion about question 1, the ballot question, which is an effort to expand the right to repair law that was passed in 2012. We have with us Tommy Hickey, who represents the Yes group. He's the person who wrote the Yes answer that's in the document that's handed out by the Secretary of State. And we also have Connor Units here, who wrote the No answer and represents that coalition. We also have a lot of people who have read about this, who thought about it, who care about it. And our objective in this discussion is to expand our understanding. So we understand what the issues are, understand perhaps how we're going to vote, but also understand what may be missing from this law that we may need to add. This is a state that has been a forerunner in, as we know, in data safety. We passed the first data safety law in the country. We're a state that really cares about the safety of our citizens. And we're going to work really hard tonight to understand what this law says, if it's passed, what it will do, and if there are parts missing, that we get our legislators to take part and add what's missing. So the next speaker is Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. My question is a little bit different, where I see this, if it yes passes, if it passes, will auto manufacturers pass on those development costs to Massachusetts auto purchasers? I mean, I remember when Massachusetts emissions was a separate item. It happened to be similar to California, but could it have an additional cost on the sticker?
So Connor wants to address that. Before you do though, Hobbit, do you have a related question? You'll have to unmute. You have to unmute. I can't hear you. There you go.
That, and I had to go find it. So I'm kind of here under the auspices of Arnie, who I know from an informal hiking group, and I think I know some of the rest of you. Long time like network and car wonk. What's happening here is you're conflating access to the diagnostic and repair information and access to the vehicle. Those are completely separate things, and the bill deals with the former only.
And Connor, do you want to address Chris's question about costs?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things, Adam, if I could, because Tommy got his chance to kind of make his opening intro, and I'd like to have the same, because I think I can touch on some of these things. First of all, I think it's important to understand that telematics information related to vehicle diagnosis and repair is already covered under the existing law. It very clearly states that any telematic information necessary to diagnose and repair a vehicle that is also provided to dealer repair shops must be made available to independent mechanics. That is in the law. There are certain
That's the 2012 law, Connor?
Yeah, yes, technically 2013 law, but yes. That is in the existing law. There are certain pieces of telematics that are excluded, like navigation data and some other things, but any information necessary to diagnose and repair a vehicle is covered under the current law. Second, and this gets to Chris's point, on question one, there is nothing in there that requires automakers to build this app or this platform. In fact, it specifically says that automakers cannot be involved in authorizing or maintaining this independent platform or app. So that is not, it's a great question, Chris, is where does that cost fall? Where does the cost of building it fall? Where does the cost of maintaining it fall? Where does the cost of securing it fall? Who's going to be charged with protecting it, updating it, ensuring it is continually protected against more sophisticated attempts to get into vehicles? Because it should also be noted that this applies to model year 2022. Those cars are already well into the production cycle, and some of them will start coming out next year. So we're talking about requiring the creation of a mobile app, as Tommy said, that can interact with every single connected vehicle in Massachusetts, and developing that app somehow safely and without flaws or bugs in the span of a year. I mean, to equate that with anyone developing a typical app that has this kind of impact is ridiculous. On Hobbit's point about the diagnosis and repair systems, just to give you a point of reference, the Auto Care Association, which Tommy represents and which has spent upwards of $4 million pushing this question, has been giving presentations over the last year, most notably at the SEMA conference last year in Las Vegas, where they show a version of what they want this app to look like if question one passes. And that app has location data, it has maps, and it has behavioral data. So it's completely disingenuous for them to say they don't want those things, because the app that they're showing people, which is the only model we have to go on of what this app could look like, has all of those things. And the last point I'll make, and then I'll throw it back to questions. Navigation data is explicitly prohibited in the existing law, the sharing of that telematics information. It is not explicitly prohibited in question 1. It would have taken them about 9 words. They could have put in nothing in this legislation shall be read to apply to navigation data or geolocation data. They wrote the question. They could have done that. They did not do that at the same time that they were showing this app that has those things in it.
Connor, may I ask a question? When you're talking about the law, the current law, because this is very important. If the current law is already doing this, then that is a very valuable piece of information for us. I'm looking at the measure of the ballot question from 2012. When you say the current law, is that what you mean, or is there a law passed after the ballot question?
The ballot question in 2012 is not the law. The law was passed before the ballot question was voted on in August. Governor Patrick signed it in August 2012. It was a piece of compromise legislation. The ballot question was already locked into the ballot at that time because the deadline to pull a ballot question is the first Wednesday in July. So the ballot question went forward despite the law already being on the books. And after it passed, the legislature had to reconcile the ballot question with the law they already had on the books. That is the final law that's on the books.
Okay, so that law, I think would be very helpful if we knew what that law was. I'm looking at the website, Ballotpedia, and I'm seeing, it says that a month after the legislature wanted to enact the measure and forego, I guess, actually, it would be very helpful, Connor, if you'd help us out. Can you tell us where on the web the law, the actual law that's currently on the books is? And then we can post it in the chat for everyone to look at.
Post it in the chat right now.
Great. I think it's very important we look at this. So this is the law. We have it right here.
I'm going to post here for everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to actually open it up in my browser, and I'm going to share it with everyone so we can look at it together, because it's not going to be helpful to be talking left and right if we don't know what we're talking about.
Adam, it is within the law, it is section 2, paragraph F.
Okay.
It deals with telematics.
Okay. What I'm most interested in is what this law is. So what you're telling us is this law basically says that any repair person, my repair person, just retired, but my new repair person, which is Forest Hills Auto, lovely people, have the right to access to motor, can everyone see this? Access to motor vehicle manufacturer diagnostic and repair information and diagnostic repair tools otherwise made available to dealers. This seems unambiguous, doesn't it? Correct. There's protection of manufacturer trade secrets. That's also entirely reasonable. And access to non-diagnostic information is not required. So there's now a bunch of legal stuff. But what this law says is, if I'm an independent repair dealer and a dealer has access to diagnostic information, I have a right to demand that. And this law will what is the sanction, Connor?
How do you mean? What is the penalty?
If I can figure out that Ford is not letting me have access to information about a Ford Taurus, what sanction, what rights do I have as an independent car dealer, or independent car repairer?
I don't know off the top of my head, honestly. Maybe Tommy can answer that question.
This is chapter 165 from the 191st General Court of Commonwealth of Massachusetts, an act relative to auto repair. That was the actual law that was passed.
Is that what we're looking at here, Paul?
I think Ballotopedia just aggregates that.
No, this is the link that Connor gave me.
This is the Mass General Laws. This is the legislature's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Okay.
I shared a link in the chat that is to the actual Mass legislature.gov site, but my guess is it's the same.
Good enough.
I
okay, so
haven't done a diff on them, so I don't know.
So help us out here. Is there anything in this that would allow Ford, for example, one of the sponsors against this bill, that would allow a car dealership from getting diagnostic information that Forest Hills Auto cannot get?
In which law?
In the 2012 law. This
No,
law
the whole
that-
purpose of the law is the purpose of the law is exactly that, to make it clear in law that if Ford provides diagnostic and repair and maintenance data to its dealerships, that it needs to make that same data available to owners and to independent repair shops. If they license software to their dealers, they can license that at a fair price to owners and independents. And actually conversely, that if they, by giving it to owners and independents because of the law, that they can't continue to charge their dealers high prices for the same access. So it protects it both ways. It basically says, if you've got diagnostic software and access to maintenance and repair data that you're giving to your dealers, that can't be proprietary. It has to be provided to owners and independent repair professionals.
So my question that I'm asking is, how is this law in 2012, which seems comprehensive? It says access by owners of motor vehicles and by independent repair facilities.
Can I offer my interpretation of this?
Bear with me just a second. Yes, I want to hear that, but let me just read this for people so people can see it. This is the law that was passed in 2012 or 13. It says, you shall have, except with some exceptions, there's some issues about exact dates of models. There's an exception about trade secrets, and there's an exception about immobilizers, which makes some sense. It's a high secure thing. It basically says that, if I understand this correctly, and please contradict me if I'm wrong, it says access by owners of motor vehicles and by independent repair facilities to motor vehicle manufacturer diagnostic and repair information and diagnostic repair tools otherwise made available to dealers. This seems very clear to me. I can't understand how, for example, Ford could have access to a diagnostic repair tool and not let Forest Hills Auto have it and still be in compliance with this law. Can someone address that?
No, they can't. I mean, the law works very well. I think we can all agree on, I think Tommy and I would agree on that. The existing law works very well. His members have been stated as saying right now they can get all the information they need to diagnose and repair a vehicle. The question that they raise is about this telematics issue, and I can show you where in the law that is, but I know that others have questions, or Paul wanted to mention something.
Well, hold on, Connor. So Jeff has a question. Maybe you will expand our understanding here.
Well, I want to put this out, and maybe Connor or somebody else can address, because I read into this heavily, and as you know, I mean, I just kept looking and reading and looking and reading, and basically the way my interpretation was that between the law and what was done amongst the automakers is there's a common interface to cars that anybody can plug into and read any error codes, read diagnostics, but they have to physically plug in, where now car manufacturers have the ability to get that information transmitted, wirelessly, that and telemetrics. So my understanding is the extension of this is that the third-party repair companies are now trying to get on that same level playing field where, I mean, when you and I have a problem with our car and the check engine light goes on, the manufacturer might know because they can wirelessly, get that information, but nobody else would, because if we don't drive in and they plug a diagnostic in, I mean, they just don't know what's happening. So my understanding is the change that this new question is going to do is give other repair companies access to the same telemetric data, not only of what's in the nav system, but allow it to transmit that, okay, you've got an error code popped up on your dash. So before you even do anything, you can be getting an email or a phone call from 5 different companies saying, hey, we see you've got a bad sensor in your exhaust system, come on in and we'd be happy to repair it for you. That's my interpretation of how they're trying to extend it, that it goes beyond just the diagnostic codes that anybody can get with the 2012, 2013 law. Now, is that true, Connor?
I mean, that's a pretty good summary, Jeff, of what they're trying to do. I want to make just quibble with 2 things. One, again, if you look back at that law that Adam just had up and you go down to section F, that's where it talks about telematics data. and says anything necessary must be made available. But the second point I would make there is what you just described, and you said the check engine light comes on. So yes, the manufacturers might get that information, but the consumer also gets that information. The consumer can see the check engine light is on, and the consumer has the ability and the choice to go wherever they want for the repairs. And as Tommy will tell you, 75% of people always choose their local mechanic and will continue to do so. Nothing about this information prevents anyone from going anywhere they want. And again, this is not necessary for repair of a vehicle.
Oh, I understand, but the reason they know is they're sitting there and they see the light on their dash. I mean, that's how the consumer knows.
Right.
And
although now the consumer will know because they will get something from the dealer. I think I am hearing something a little bit here, Connor, and the other folks who are supporting the no vote here. There is an issue about competition. I'm reading this last paragraph here. It says, with the exception of telematics, diagnostics, and repair information that is provided to dealers. What is this? What does this paragraph mean?
Yes, it is written in a very confusing way, but this paragraph says, it says that nothing in this law will apply to telematics, with the exception of telematics, diagnostic and repair information that is provided to dealers necessary to diagnose. So it's really written in a strange way, but beginning with
what is it? Is there a general understanding, and maybe Paul and Connor?
Right. I think this is actually this is the part to. So I mean, one of the things, and I think Connor and I would probably, first of all, Secure Repairs we're not part of the yes movement. The Secure Repairs, I started with my own money and fund myself. We're very, as a group, focused on the digital right to repair, which is an issue that encompasses this and a whole lot of, and smart home appliances and your smartphone and smart medical devices and the Internet of Things. So it's a much larger issue than this. This is kind of a early skirmish in the struggle over the digital right to repairs. I think one thing Connor and I would probably agree on is this is a very technical issue to bring to voters in a ballot question.
Yeah.
This isn't ranked choice voting. It's not, it is, and this discussion indicates, you get into very technical issues having to do with the wording of the 2013 law and how repair works and how these incredibly sophisticated modern vehicles work and so on. And it is a challenging question for voters to have to try and say, thumbs up or thumbs down on. So we're all in agreement on that. I am also, like, when you read the 2013 law and you look at this section, you would seem to think, seems like it's already in there. So what are we arguing about?
Paul, I'm looking here. Yes. It says that telematic services
are excluded,
including remote diagnostics. It says that right here.
That's right. But up earlier it says, with the exception of telematic diagnostic and repair information that is provided to dealers.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
Honestly, I think that confusion, that distinction is why this ballot question exists. I think, and again, I'm not privy to the conversations, but my guess is the AAAs and the auto zones and the automotive repair dealers association, independent repair association, are trying to get in front of what they worry would be a reading of this that would, in essence, lock them out. Because what is clear is this: in the next, 5 to 10 model years, all the diagnostic and repair information from your vehicle will be transmitted wirelessly via cellular internet connection to repair clouds run by the OEMs themselves. They're going to use machine learning and artificial intelligence to do preventative maintenance on those.
We're no longer going to have a physical plug, Paul, where we can plug it.
Well, the physical plug is required by federal law under the, I think it's the Clean Air Act. And it was originally required to provide access to emissions data. So, for the foreseeable future, the OBD port is going to remain there because it's required by federal law. Although, frankly, some enterprising lobbyist at some point could get it removed, you know? And I think what the concern is for independent and for mechanically inclined owners is that at some point in the future, basically OEMs will say something along the lines of, well, sure, you know, the Massachusetts law, which again, they recognize nationally, even though it's a state law, they recognize this law in every state. Will say something along the lines of, well, yeah, it says that we have to provide access to diagnostic software and tools, but you know, our new cars don't need that. They just use our super smart, you know, maintenance cloud, and we don't provide diagnostic software and tools anymore. We just do it all wirelessly in the cloud. And according to, you know, this section F, you know, we don't need to provide access to that. And at that point, there will be a death clock over independent repair shops, because with each new model year, the number of cars they can actually work on that, you know, will get smaller and smaller. And eventually they'll go the way of the TV repair shop and the camera repair shop and all the other repair shops. And I think that is the concern. So I've been careful to say, if this thing doesn't pass on November 3rd, on November 4th, not much has really changed, because independent repair shops would still get that data the way they do now. The question is, 5 or 10 years hence, what is the situation? How is this law interpreted, both by the automakers in terms of their compliance with it and potentially by the courts? And what access do, you know, organizations like AAA or AutoZone have to a whole wealth of maintenance and maintenance data that they need to provide services to their customers, and again, owners as well. It's our data, we should have access to it. What access do we have? And what I would say is, if you look at other parts of the connected device economy, if you look at where there is no right to repair, if you look at connected appliances, if you look at Apple smartphones, the model is that the data is what's valuable, and that you use digital rights management and software locks to lock your customers into think of your Lexmark printer or your HP printer and those inkjet cartridges that cost more than caviar, right? You use software-based locks to lock them into a ecosystem in which you control parts, service, and maintenance, and can charge whatever you want. Again,
Paul, the language
printer ink costs more than
Steve,
caviar.
hold on, I'll call on someone, but they're raising their hand first. Steve was.
So that's my read on it.
So Paul, you think that, or do you believe that, say for instance, you're stuck on the side of the road, and the AAA driver, tow truck driver, can actually plug in a device and be able to know what's going on with your phone? Do you think that would help them and benefit them by having this law in place?
I think if you were to roll the clock forward 10 or 10 years, let's say, after this passes, you would see not only OEMs like Honda and Toyota and Ford offering a whole constellation of very valuable, but also slightly creepy services based on predictive maintenance and what they know about your driving behaviors and where you drive and how you drive. Organizations like AAA and AutoZone would offer those. You know, maybe Sullivan Tire would be able to offer those as well by accessing the same repair cloud, diagnostic cloud, repair cloud that the OEMs have. And so the net effect for vehicle owners would be, of course, more choice, lower prices, you know, more options. The concern if it does not pass is that
I just want to make sure
10 years hence, right? And so I think that is, so in essence, yes, I think if this were to pass, going forward, there would be a greater variety of repair and maintenance services, and that what independents offered would track closely to what dealerships offer, which is what we have now in our repair economy. If it does not pass, there's a risk that services are going to diverge.
Thank you. Hava?
Can I share something fun for just a second?
Go ahead.
Let me get it up here.
You want to share your screen?
Just a picture. Oh, I can't because you.
I have to give you permission. Hold on a second. Go ahead.
This is the radio head unit from inside my 2019 Kona Electric, a fairly new car. This thing down here on the lower right is the cellular modem that I excised and took out of there. There is only hardwired access to my car. Now, that distinction needs to be made in anything that goes forward.
Most car owners can't do that, but yes.
Yes, but
Hobbit, do you want to say a few words about what you mean?
What was that, Adam?
Hobbit, can you say a few words about what you mean?
Okay, so right now, if you don't have any of that wireless stuff, whoever is going to try to service your car has to plug into the plug and run some diagnostic tool to pull the information. And the prior law governs what they are or not able to retrieve with using that tool, i.e. do they have the correct tool? Do they have like the same dealer level tool where they can get all the information about all the systems in the car rather than just like the emissions, right? That's what that previous law covered, was they need all the manufacturer data. And no, that never covered telematics and all that stuff. But that boundary needs to still exist between that necessary repair and mechanical and electrical stuff and everything else. And I think that clause that you're referring to in Part F actually gets into that.
Yes. Jeffrey.
For my own way of looking at it, I sort of reject pretty much everything Paul just said, that if you're talking 10 or 15 years out, the shoulda, woulda, couldas of what a manufacturer may do, could do, may opt to do, I think, I mean, that's
Can I give you an example? Could I give you an example from today, Jeffrey?
I've got the floor right now. The one thing that we're not being offered by anybody on either side is very much what I think Hobbit was just alluding to, is that I don't have the personal ability in my vehicle to go into one of my screens and decide what I want to share or not share with anybody. And I mean, if I was concerned about my own data privacy all the way, whether it was manufacturer or third party, this is an option I should have on one of my many screens, and I should be able to pick what I choose to share. But in terms of passing this new
Hey, Jeff,
question,
before you go on, I want to hear your next point, but Connor wanted to address your point, your first point.
Yeah, I would just say to that, Jeff, that as this progresses, different automakers are doing different things in the interest of their own competition, because they compete with each other, right? And one of the things we've seen recently is Europe has passed very stringent personal privacy protections and cybersecurity protections. Which is far more stringent than anything we have here, even I believe more stringent than what California recently passed. In response to that, and I'm just going to give you one example. Every automaker is different, right? I can't claim to speak for all of them. But for example, BMW has developed a system called Car Data that was developed not because they're required to share this information, but because they're required to protect this information. And they basically do what question one is asking for on a non-standardized way. They give the consumers an app that connects through a secure server back to the vehicle, so there's no direct access and it's secure. But in that app, they have the ability to decide who, if anyone, has access, not just broadly to their information, but there's a whole menu of information they can decide to share. So for example, they can say, I want AutoZone to be able to get information on my muffler, and I want my insurance company to get information on XYZ, or I want nobody to get this information. So those kinds of products are being developed in response to consumer, what consumers are looking for and various privacy concerns, security concerns. Again, every manufacturer is different, but some of those products are out there. That is not the kind of thing that question one would create.
Thank you.
I see question one is opening up my data to more parties than who currently can get it, and again, without my control.
So I think that Asaf, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, so the future looking and what OEMs will do in the future, etc. All that is, I think, legitimate concerns, and that maybe should be addressed. Maybe now, maybe in the future. The problem is that the language of the bill doesn't address, well, at least not properly, because and this is something that we should understand. The language of the bill forces the OEMs to just open the door to the vehicle. And that is just irresponsible, just plain irresponsibility.
Asaf, when you say open the door to the vehicle, could you be more specific?
Yeah, so the language says, let me see, I've opened it. So the language says.
If you want to share, if you want to share.
Sure, I can share.
Well, that's how I read it. And I just don't see how worrying about what a car company is going to do in 10 or 15 years helps protect me from this.
Let's see what Asaf is trying to say.
Can you see the PDF?
Yeah, for people who go up to view options, you can expand your zoom ratio. If you're having trouble reading, you can make a larger magnification by choosing view options and then choosing zoom ratio and going to a higher ratio, like 150.
Yeah, so can you see that access to vehicle onboard diagnostic system shall be standardized and not require authorization by the manufacturer?
Yes.
And then access shall include the ability to send commands to in-vehicle components if needed for purpose of maintenance and diagnostics and repair.
Yes.
Not all of that is available as is in this language today. And this is the access that you grant the hackers into the vehicle. Now, if the OEMs have a cloud, the data in the cloud, you can certainly somehow write the language that says, you know, we need access to that data. We need access to the data in the cloud. Somehow just separate the data from the car, from the vehicle itself, because hackers are not, well, not at least some of the hackers are not looking just for the data. They're looking to control the vehicle. They're looking to show ransomware on the infotainment and make you pay, you know, a few $1,000s in Bitcoins, or your car will never start again. Things like that. And these are works that are being, you know, developed these days. And the reasons for all these high barriers that the OEMs are putting around the cars are exactly against that. This is, you know, safety. They want to make sure that somebody else cannot control your vehicle while you're driving. That, you know, so
Asaf, this is raising the question that I don't. If you could stop sharing for a moment, so we can.
Sure.
Yeah. I see your point. And I think it's very interesting and valid. But here's the thing. You guys are coming to talk about this law that's on the books, and you're spending a lot of money, and you're spending a lot of time and energy, and you're calling yourself safe and secure people. The safe and secure people, it seems to me, and please everyone else weigh in, but I'm just going to do a riff on what Jeff just said. The safe and secure thing is for us to tell your auto manufacturers to outlaw these devices completely. There is no earthly reason to have these computers give access. These computers are rather like the effort to computerize voting, in my opinion. They're solving a problem that does not require to be solved. These competitive companies are telling their customers, here's a lovely thing. Bear with me. I just think we've talked about this in our group in many other contexts. A lot of us here are computer repairmen. We love computers. We care about them. We think a lot about them. We also know that there's some things they don't do well. It is conclusively proven that if you put these fancy computers in cars, that some jerk from some other country or from our own country is going to hack in and turn off the brakes and kill somebody. I guarantee it. It's just, you don't need any proof for that. This being the case, I wonder how you guys feel about going back to your people who are paying you and tell them,
remove computers.
Tell them.
Just engine and Windows.
No, I wouldn't want to exaggerate because I think computers have added something to cars.
Not Microsoft Windows, though.
But yes, remove computers that will introduce
no Macs.
which you as a computer professional, Asaf, you know perfectly well that the presence of these computers presents a risk, whether the dealers have exclusive control of them or not. In fact, Asaf, you would be more honest if you came out and said, the people who are paying me right now to do
So
that.
first of all, nobody pays me. Okay, it's
Well,
very, very
yeah.
important for me to
Okay.
say
All
Karamba
right.
Security is not getting paid.
Let me withdraw.
It is our genuine opinion
That's fine. That's
that
fine.
you should
So
vote no.
Let me withdraw that. It's contentious, and I apologize.
Okay.
To
And
go
let
back,
me-
to the-
let me say-
to go to the dealers and say, we're going to pass a law that prohibits the use of computers in
Yeah.
automobiles, except for
Adam, it's a competitive business.
Wait a
And
minute. It's a competitive business that's subject to government regulation.
yeah,
What I'm going to propose we think about as a group, I'm not saying it's my opinion. I'm saying it's something we should consider and put on the table.
there are cars that have less computers.
Let me finish this up. There have been many pieces of legislation that are extremely irritating to people who run companies, and yet are in the best interests of the community. Let's think about this for a minute. Suppose we pass a law that says no computer that could conceivably allow a hacking event into a car is permitted to be introduced to a car. Now stop for a minute, just hear me out. Suppose
Just
we
kill
pass-
autonomous car.
Yes, suppose we passed a law like that. What would be the social consequences?
I think that, for instance, autonomous driving is gonna change. It's gonna change the world. Gonna change the world in a profound way.
Maybe
and you just killed it.
One consequence is no autonomous driving. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what are the other social consequences? Because we don't have autonomous driving now.
The other things are more, niceties, like for instance, driving assistance, like the car now knows how to park itself, etc. There are some safety.
Yes. But let's suppose we don't have those.
So there will be more car accidents.
There
will be even more.
Adam,
there will be even more.
Point of order. As a spectator here, I'd really like to hear from more people than just have a dialogue.
I agree. Thank you. So let's move on.
Connor has a comment.
I just want to make one very quick.
I want to take John's suggestion. Are there people who have not gotten to speak who would like to ask a question or would like to say something? Ken Olson?
Yes, my question would be, telematics has been around for a long time. Okay, it's been very common in vehicles after 2013. Back then, if you had a contract with somebody taking that telematics data, they had the privilege of that data. What does this do to change that so that anybody can get into that telematics system? And does it prevent you from cutting out that telematics system? We've already seen one guy who had to find it in his radio, okay, and carve it out, probably voiding all warranties.
As Hamid says no.
I drive an old car because I drive an old car, okay? I don't want the the infotainment system connected to the CAN bus, because that's how a lot of hackers get in. Okay, they get into your infotainment system, they're into your CAN bus, they own your car. Okay, if the two have never connected, that would make me a lot happier. Oh, back to the speaker.
Other questions or comments that people haven't spoken yet would like to make?
Adam, I guess reading the legislation this afternoon, I guess it seems the nut of the thing is a concern about wireless. Apparently, under the current law, all pretty much, small time mechanic shops and tire people, I saw Direct Tire listed among the proponents or supporters. They have access to the information, the telematics information that's in the car's computer. Right now, the concern seems to be wireless access. That's the dealers now are afraid that it will all be shipped to wireless, and they will no longer have access to the information they need to repair your car. So I don't know. That's my impression of what reading the legislation itself.
Does everyone understand what Stan is asking or saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially the crux
Seems
of it.
to be wireless access. That's what
I think telematics are wireless by nature. Is
that what
right?
telematics is? Is a fancy word for wireless?
No. Telematics is just what's in the car, keeping track of what's going on. It's access to the telematics wirelessly that I think the legislation is trying to address.
Now I'm confused. What does telematics mean?
That's the
Cellular connectivity to the OEM, back to the cloud of the OEM.
what your car's up to.
Oh, wait. Asaf is giving a different answer than Stan.
Yeah.
I think we need to, since we're talking about
OnStar was kind of the telematics program, right? And that was really about accident and kind of vehicle tracking, right? So if you think OnStar is kind of the original telematics offering, and now it's there's more in that pipeline. There's a lot more data and a lot more types of information that's being transmitted. But it is separate. Although I'll defer to Asaf on this. It is. The telematics system historically has been separate from the kind of maintenance and repair systems on vehicles. Is that right?
Well, they try to upload whatever they feel is relevant for their use, other services, etc. It might be also diagnostics information, and maybe they will make that data accessible, and through laws like this one also to independent dealerships. I think it makes a lot of sense. Telematics basically is a cellular connectivity, and the car get an IP and connect directly to the cloud of the OEM.
I see.
So if you're an old school repair technician and you're
Paul, hold on just a second, and we'll get you. Jeffrey?
Adam, like you and most other people, I mean, I've had cars with no computers. I've got a newish car now that not only has about 20 or 30 computers, but it's connected. And I would tell you there are parts of it that I love. I love that my nav system can see what the traffic is on the roads that I'm going and suggest other routes. I like my app that will help me find my car because I forgot where I put it in the parking lot. I'll lock the door, make sure the doors are locked. I mean, that's all part of the wireless connectivity that it has that's running all the time that I very much enjoy. I have no ability, on the other hand, to control what it's transmitting out of its stored memory to the manufacturer, or in the case of this law, to other third parties, which makes me very interested in what that other gentleman was saying about what's going on in other countries. Because I mean, and any bill or any law that really has our personal data interests at heart, I would think would more than anything want to give us access to the ability to control that. So I think more than, again, wanting to pass another law and open up more of our data, I think a better law would be allowing me to control what, in fact, I'm allowing my car to transmit to anybody.
That's what the legislation says.
Hold on, Stan, I want to hear you, but John had his hand up. Go ahead, John.
When you say that's what the legislation...
Wait, Jeff, we'll get to that in a second. John,
I would like to know what is in this for me. Every time I go to a dealer, it costs me 2 or 3 times as much money for the same repairs as I can have done independently. I don't see anything. The dealers and the manufacturers use this restriction on data as a monopoly. For example, any 7-year-old BMW or newer, you can't replace the battery or the car won't run right unless you take it to the dealer, pay them to code, whatever that means, to code the battery to the car. You may benefit a little bit from performance out of the battery, but you have to pay a lot of money to get them to do that. That's a monopoly, that's an abuse, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to go back to the dealers. I want to deal with an independent mechanic. Done.
Thank you. And Stan wanted to say something. Stan and Jeff.
Can I respond to John's question or John's point?
In just a moment, Connor. One sec. Stan, did you want to just...
Yeah, this is the full text of the question. And it says mechanical data, any vehicle-specific data, including telematics system data generated, stored in or transmitted by a motor vehicle used for or otherwise related to the diagnosis, repair, or maintenance of the vehicle. That's the information. And then they go on to describe a telematics system as any system in a motor vehicle that collects information generated by the operation of the vehicle and transmits such information, in this chapter referred to as telematics system data, utilizing wireless communications to a remote receiving point where it is stored. So my point is the car is already collecting mechanical data, what's happening to your car, how the engine is running and so forth, and the oxygen system, all the rest of it. This telematics system is the wireless point that they're concerned that since it's a quote loophole unquote in the current law, that dealers can exclude independent mechanics and repair people from access to this data. That's my understanding.
That's
But
why I'm voting
that
yes
hasn't
on
happened.
question number
Connor,
one,
Thank you, Mitch.
and all my family is.
Connor, did you want to weigh in?
I just want to react, John, to what you said, because what you described is not, question one will have no impact on that. That is all covered under the existing law.
The law.
That is the law now, that the local repair shop has to have access to all the same codes and information as a dealer repair shop.
Yep.
And I just want to note too, you mentioned, you used the word monopoly, that independent mechanics in Massachusetts already perform 70% of post-warranty repairs in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Well, 70, that means 30% are done by the dealer.
Or do it yourself.
So how many can I just have a raise of hands? How many people are confused? Anybody besides me?
How many people are what, Adam?
Confused. I for one, the purpose of this meeting is to get clarity. I for one, don't feel like I have it. I'm genuinely confused. Connor is claiming that the law as it's written gives Forest Hills Auto access to any telematic information about the diagnosis or mechanical aspects of the car right now, and that law requires that Forest Hills Auto have full access to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a consensus about that? So Connor, you've said that. Paul, is this true?
Adam, is the law says if that information is only available telematically and is provided to dealer repair shops. So I just want to be clear, that's what it is. If it's necessary for diagnosis and repair, it's only available telematically and it's provided to dealer repair shops. It must be made available to local repair shops.
You're talking about the current,
So
2013 law, yeah.
So Paul, can you help us out here? What Connor is saying is that the law as it's written means that Forest Hills Auto gets access to all the telematic information, period.
No.
Is that not true?
No.
No, because it has a big carve out for all.
Time out. One at a time.
Who has the floor?
Go ahead,
Paul.
Paul, you have the floor.
Okay. So the problem, and Connor, I think would agree on this, and other people as well, is that the law as written in 2013 is ambiguous. It clearly has a big carve out for telematics data, but seems to include telematics data for purposes of repair and diagnostics that isn't available otherwise as covered information. And the truth is, it passed in 2013. It's not like the law has really been litigated because automakers basically agreed to it and signed a memorandum of understanding, recognizing it nationally. And it just has not really been tested. Clearly, the yes camp, the independent repair shops and so on, feel that there is ambiguity in the wording and are very concerned going forward that they may find themselves locked out of a ecosystem in which repair shops no longer use the diagnostic computer on the wheeled cart and the OBD port, but that everything is really managed through the OEM's repair cloud. And while you can say, no, you're totally, the law gives you access to that. My understanding and feeling is they're not so sure, and they want to make it double extra clear that they have access to it. I would say to Jeffrey, who said, well, this law just gives access to a whole bunch of my data to a whole bunch of other people. No, it does not. It only gives access to the owner of the vehicle. And it is then up to them to delegate that access to that data to an independent repair shop if they choose to do so. But the law does not say.
Then tell me on my car how I make that happen.
Yeah, that's a
Because
good
I
question.
can't see that.
That's a very good question. So let's address this very practical question. Let's suppose I go to Forest Hill Auto with my new car. I drive it in, and I want them to have full access to all the diagnostic mechanical information about my car. How do I delegate that? What's the mechanism? Maybe Tommy
Yeah,
wants to
so
address that.
I'm sorry. I'm sure I've missed a lot. I did assume you guys would be talking about this. I'm glad I was right.
You already voted, Tommy.
Yeah.
You're done.
Look, this would give the owner, I think it's interesting. Just listening to you guys for the last just 5 minutes, you can see all like these little caveats and ways of manufacturers not giving the information and batteries, etc., and what handles this and handles that. First of all, the way this law was written is ambiguous at best. It didn't address exactly what the 2012 law did, which was standardization, which was an open platform, which was timely, fair, and reasonable pricing. The whole idea behind the 2012 law was that car manufacturers had 26 different ways of fixing a car, 26 different tools, and they were pricing independent repairs out of the market. You had to buy all these scan tools, you had to buy all these codes, you had to buy all this, and they couldn't do it. So they started to specialize on certain car manufacturers. The 2012 law came and it standardized repairs, meaning there was one tool and then there was a subscription process in which car independent repair shops would gain access to repair codes and diagnostic information necessary to fix the car. What this would do would give the owner all of that diagnostic repair information that's generated by the OBD port. There are cars driving around right now, Teslas, for example, the car of the future, that don't have OBD ports. They're electric cars. We're moving to electric cars 5, 6, 7, 8 years. We're supposed to have 90% of cars on the road are going to be electric cars. I mean, that's the future of cars. Tesla and Ford just came out saying that they're going to start doing more warranty repairs over the internet. They're going to make millions of dollars doing this over the internet so they can stop going to the dealership to do this. The future of fixing cars is wireless. Now, what this ballot initiative would do would give the owner all the information. You would do it through a mobile application, just like I have my bank on my iPhone. It would be on the dashboard. An alert would come up to the owner of the car saying, you have a misfire on a piston in your car, your brakes are low, whatever the problem is with your car. You would then be able to share that information with an independent repairer of your choice for however long you want to share that. If you want to share that with—
Tom, can I just stop you for a sec? Could you explain how we do that delegation? I drive my car. I have a minivan, Honda Odyssey 2005. So I'm going to drive it down to Forest Hill Auto.
Yeah.
It's too old to fit this scenario, isn't it? Okay, so let's upgrade me. So now I have a 2014 Jeep Cherokee, or a 2017 car. I drive it down to Forest Hills Auto, or a Tesla. I drive it down to Forest Hills Auto. How do I delegate the right to Mike at Forest Hills? How do I delegate this right?
You're only getting mechanical information. So you would share that through the mobile, just like I said, how.
Do I hand my cell phone
that's
to
the
Mike?
beauty of this. This is what this is all about. It's about remote diagnostics. So the idea is that you'd be driving along, you'd have an alert that show up on your car. You would share that information with Forrest, whoever your mechanic is. He would diagnose.
How do I do it mechanically?
You have an app on your phone saying share data, just like you share your location on your iPhone. Press the.
So I would have my mechanic in my app, his address or his
and there would be an
number or something?
authentication process. Again, there would be a whole framework that would be laid out. I think the important part is to look at how this is written. This calls for an open and standardized platform created by the car manufacturers to give the owner of the car direct mechanical information. So we're giving them, they're going to create this, but we need it to be open and standardized, which is what the 2012 law did, so that independent repairers can fix.
I think I'm understanding this. Asaf, you're claiming that the fact that there's a balkanization of these systems is providing safety. because you're saying that if we standardize the system, it'll be easier for hackers to break in. But if we have 6 different operating systems, it will be harder for the hackers to break in. And that's what's going to be protecting us?
No, it's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that
Okay, I'm sorry. Please
I'm
explain.
saying that currently the access is just for reading information, read only, and that's enough. What we are afraid of with this, when writing the law, what we are afraid is that all the information is going to move to the cloud. So we want access to that as well. The language of the law doesn't, well, maybe it does say that, but it says other thing as well, like granting access to send commands in the car. So the language is just wrong.
If what we just read was it says send commands to diagnostic, repair, and mechanical.
Yeah, but cyber, yeah, okay. So maybe I should have done some intro to cyber just to start on the same level. When you are able to send commands, now what you're doing as a hacker, you research the target system and look for vulnerabilities.
These systems, your dealers are putting them in. They're already there.
Yeah.
These dealers are putting in these systems.
Yeah.
They're just saying that we have access to them, not independent companies.
No, it's not. The dealers don't have access. So even the OEMs dealers don't have access to these ECUs. Not through that mechanism that is just invented by lawyers. I don't know who invented it. Obviously, it's not engineers.
Well, wait a minute. So Asaf, you're saying that when we have these dealers having access to this information, you're saying that they're somehow specially protected against hacking? And how is that?
No, they're not specially protecting against hackers. They just don't provide that kind of access externally. Okay?
But I thought they were providing it to their own dealers.
Yeah, but they provide read-only access to diagnostics information, and that's all.
Okay.
And this is already exists. We don't need to change anything. The problem is that maybe something will go to the cloud and there won't be any OBD port because there is no emission, right, in electrical cars. And maybe, diagnostics is going to be some magic that is going to happen by the genius people of Tesla. I don't know what we are afraid of, but we are afraid of something.
I think
that's understood, and we should probably extend the right to repair to that era.
Okay.
But not by providing everybody direct access into the vehicle, which are, they're killing hundreds and thousands of people every year. This is like giving us the keys into the car.
Where do you see that in the bill?
Noted. Sharice.
I just shared the language. So do you want me to share that again? I can do that.
We definitely want to keep at this. Sharice, do you want to comment? Sharice, I can't hear you. Sharice, we can't hear you. We'll get back to you though. Connor.
Adam, I want to address something that Tommy just said. He said the manufacturers are going to build this and pay for it. The law says manufacturers must equip vehicles with this standard open access platform. It does not say they have to build it. It specifically prevents them from being involved in its creation or maintenance. It specifically prohibits them from guarding access to it or administrating it.
What?
Nope.
What?
Secondly.
Wait, hold on, Connor. Can you show us in the language where that is?
Yeah.
I'll let you share.
If I can share my screen.
Yes, please.
I'll actually highlight it.
Make sure it's the right section of the bill too, Connor.
He will. Connor's an honorable man. We only let honorable men in here. And women.
Share screen.
Two places in F that sort of conflict with each other.
So first, everyone can see this, yes?
So folks, if you have your view options, you can change the magnification in the upper right-hand corner next to where it says you are viewing Connor Units' screen, just in case you're having trouble reading. Okay, show us Connor and explain.
Right here where you can see where I'm highlighting, requires the manufacturer of motor.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing highlighting. It's blacking out.
Oh, okay, sorry. Section F, or excuse me, paragraph F of section 3 says that manufacturers.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. Hold on, bear with me.
Are you seeing my screen or no?
Yes, but I'm not seeing what you're saying. You're seeing.
I can see it, Adam.
Okay, hold on. Maybe I'm confused.
I can see it, Adam, also.
Yeah, section F.
Connor, if you could just hold on your control key and hit the plus button a couple times, that would magnify that web page for us? Oh, no, not print.
Oh, sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Yeah, the control plus sign.
I gotta get, okay, cancel, control plus.
There, this one.
How computers make us so much
There you
more
go.
productive.
Great, thank you very much.
I am definitely the least computer savvy person on this call. Okay. Commencing in model year 2022 and thereafter, a manufacturer of motor vehicles sold in the Commonwealth that utilizes a telematics system shall be required to equip such vehicles with an interoperable, standardized, and open access platform across all makes and models.
Yep.
Now, where does this?
Keep reading.
Then this talks, I'm going to keep going. Then it says such platform shall be capable of securely communicating. Such platform, I'm skipping down to the next page. Such platform shall be directly accessible through a mobile-based application.
Wait, I didn't hear all mechanical data. It says communicating all mechanical data. I missed that?
No, and that's what it says, but that's not the part, that's not what I'm addressing here. I'm addressing.
That's what it says.
All right, keep going, Connor.
I know, but I'm addressing a different question.
Yeah, keep going.
Such platform shall be accessible by a mobile-based application. Again, doesn't say who's building the mobile-based application.
No, the manufacturer.
No, it doesn't say that.
Well, that's what it says.
Manufacturers will not be building the application. That
Well,
will-
okay, but they're gonna hire somebody.
They're completing.
Manufacturer of motor vehicles sold in the Commonwealth after 2022.
They have to give us the capability, but they don't build it.
Be required to equip it. Okay, so they can hire somebody to write the software.
Right.
They can't, because they're not. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going because there's another section. Tommy, did I skip the access part?
It's section 2 addressing the OBD port and the firewalls that car manufacturers have put up to circumvent the 2012 law. That's where I think you were going.
Thank you, Tommy. Nothing. So sorry, I'm skipping back up to section 2. Nothing in this paragraph, notwithstanding anything in the preceding paragraph. The motor vehicle owners and independent repair facilities access to vehicle onboard systems shall be standardized and not require any authorization by the manufacturer directly or indirectly. So that prohibits them from being involved in the creation or the access to this point, unless the authorization system for access to vehicle networks and their onboard diagnostic systems is standardized across all makes and models sold in the Commonwealth and is administered by an entity unaffiliated with a manufacturer.
So that is not addressing any of the wireless communications that derive from a car. That is not addressing remote diagnostics. That is not addressing the platform that the car manufacturers will create. That is addressing the OBD port. One of the major things that the car manufacturers have used, and it's been talked about, is security through obscurity. So they had to give independent repairers all the information necessary to fix cars through the OBD port. So what they did was they put a firewall over the OBD port to make sure that independent repairers were still at the mercy of car manufacturers. And that's one of the major problems that we had to address. We're not going to be a wireless society overnight. The OBD port is still going to be in use for diagnosing cars, but when does that go out? When do we move to a wireless system? Along the way, we need to make sure that OBD port is not security through obscurity and no one gets in and becomes a closed system again.
The question we were discussing was the creation of this app and this platform. And there's nothing in there that requires manufacturers to do it.
That's not addressing that, though. So what you just read is not addressing that platform.
I just went through every section in the bill. There's nothing in there that requires.
What you read was that was to the OBD port. That
Okay,
is
so
not the
I went through the other section after that, Tommy. Show us in the law where it says that manufacturers will create and pay for this application, this platform.
So what you just saw was section 2 addressing
that's not what I'm asking. I went through section 3. Show us where you said manufacturers are going to pay for this and create this.
No, I did. I said
yes,
manufacturers are called upon.
We can go back and show what you said.
Hold on. What I said, car manufacturers are called upon to create an open and standardized platform capable of securely communicating mechanical information to the owner of the car.
Yes. So it does not call on them to create anything.
What do you have to equip your cars with an open and standardized platform capable of getting the owner their diagnostic repair information. It doesn't say you're not
creating
going to
a platform
with this.
Let's pause for a moment. We're a group that's trying to understand. So let's maximize the goal here. Could people who haven't spoken weigh in, not to express an opinion at this point, because I think there's a certain amount of confusion about what's going on. But perhaps some clarifying questions so that we can understand better what this law really is saying so that we can know how to vote on it? Could someone ask a clarifying question?
I think what Asaf and what some of the others are trying to say is there's a way to meet common ground.
Brian, is that a question?
Yes.
Go ahead. What's your question?
So here's the question part of the statement. Is there a way that you can solve Tommy's and Jeff's and Asaf's and Connor's issues by writing it differently, the ballot, so that it doesn't open up the entire vehicle, which is increasing the cybersecurity risk, but also protects the owner's data by achieving what everybody's trying to get here, just written differently?
Hodder, did you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I was just going to say like I said in the chat, the path is different from the data, and you're talking about a spec versus a how do you actually render that?
Mm-hmm.
So
I completely agree.
Stan, did you have a comment?
In terms of answering the question, we tried to do this legislatively. We filed the bill, and usually when you file something legislatively, you have experts coming in, you have car manufacturers coming to the table. We tried to work with the car manufacturers for years to work, and they won't do it. And that's why we have to go to the ballot. And we believe this can be done. We believe this has to be done. And it's one of those things. I don't think everyone's gonna be happy at the end of the day. But we're going to pass this ballot initiative because owners think they do deserve the right to get all the information generated by their car, the diagnostic repair information. And so to answer your question is we tried to sit down with them and they won't do it.
Yeah.
They want a closed system.
Adam, could I speak to this, Adam?
Who's is this Paul? Yeah, go ahead,
This is
Paul.
Paul, yeah. And I think that's a really important point. And as I said to Connor,
we're losing you a little, Paul.
Earlier, this is a very complex issue to manage in a ballot. Sorry, I'm going to turn off my video. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I see this. We've been up on Beacon Hill countless times in the last 2 years, lobbying for digital right to repair. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And the reality in this post-Citizens United world that we live in is that it is impossible nearly to get pro-consumer legislation through legislatures if there is sustained lobbying and spending by industry to defeat it. We've had 20 states introduce digital right to repair laws. It has not made it out of committee in a single state because lobbyists, including Apple and TechNet and you name it, have used their influence to kill those efforts. And
Paul,
while
let
this
me
law,
let me pause you for just a moment. But thank you for that. It's really helpful. Jeffrey?
What I'm struggling with, and I don't know if I'm also speaking for you, Adam, I think I am a bit, is that I find question 1 to be a whole lot more confusing to me than the 2012-2013 law, which at least on the surface seems a lot clearer in what it was stated. And if I'm understanding both sides, except for there was a discrepancy between some verbiage in the beginning and verbiage in the middle about whether or not it includes some telemetric data, which to me means fix that discrepancy if at all possible. But by introducing a whole new question law bill, whatever you call this thing, that seems to be very confusing, much more so than the original law. To me, it goes in the opposite direction of what you're trying to accomplish.
Jeff, we're amending the law.
Yes.
could I just finish my thought? I'm sorry.
And one thing I want to throw out that I didn't understand, I'd like to leave as a question.
Yeah,
I'm not sure who said it because I couldn't see who was talking, but somebody said that there was a firewall that was put up on the OBD port, which I don't begin to understand. I mean, I own a $50 diagnostic tester that tells me every thing that a dealer can find out. So I don't understand what that meant when you said there was a firewall on the ODBT port.
So that depends on the car manufacturer, and that depends on what kind of car you have. What year is your car?
Well, this happens to be this particular one, I've got several, but the one I was diagnosing was about a 10-year-old Jeep.
Well, I think there it is right now. We're talking about the 2018, 2019, 2020 model cars. And this has been written about extensively. Chrysler is a big culprit of this, along with some Ford, GM, other car manufacturers. And it's just a way to circumvent the law to make sure.
But it's not against the law. This is just plain proper cybersecurity.
That's exactly it. It's a work around the law. It's not
a work around the law.
All right, this is a very important discussion. I want us to get to it. Connor just texted me saying that he needs to go. So I want Connor to have a chance. He's representing a block in this story. Connor, maybe what I try to ask you a question, which is a lot of us have expressed grave concerns about what the auto manufacturers are doing with our data, what the dealers are going to do with our data, and great concern that these ways of handling stuff is going to put us at risk, which I think Asaf has confirmed. Connor, can you give us a way forward that you think would be nice, a way forward so that we could feel safe in our cars and not feel like someone's going to turn off our brakes when we're driving, and that my Forest Hills Auto will be able to thrive? What's your utopia in this situation?
Sure. First off, Adam, I just want to thank you and thank everyone again for having this discussion. I think it's an important one. And I'll close on your question, but I meant to say this earlier, but to the point of, I just want to say for Asaf and Brian, they are not part of our coalition. They volunteered to be here. So any automaker criticism, I'm happy to take, but just so you know, these guys they're here as people who believe in this issue. They are not part of I'm the paid spokesperson. They are not. On your point, I think a couple things. One, the market is doing this already. I gave a couple of examples. I think even Paul talked about how Ford has got an app. There are different apps coming. There are different ways of sharing information from different manufacturers that are giving consumers the tools they need. And it's coming in a secure and a competitive way because they are competing with each other to provide the most secure information. Somebody brought up the example of a bank ATM, and maybe it was Tommy. The bank secures that information. The bank keeps that information safe because it's in their best interest, in the best interest of their customer. It's in the best interest of their reputation. That's what automakers are focused on. And if you create this standardized open platform with no control over who is in charge and who's got the long-term responsibility of keeping this safe, you're removing and preventing automakers from controlling access to it. You are removing them from protecting their own customers. And that is something they've invested in.
So Connor, could you answer my question?
So I started to the ideal situation is letting the market decide this, or putting forward a better timeline.
Connor, this is the Boston Network Users Group. We've been working with Microsoft for 33 years.
Fair.
And you're saying we should let the market take care of this? Are you serious?
Yeah, really.
I'm sorry, I have to be frank with you.
I appreciate
that. We let the market. You're claiming that Microsoft and Apple are striving to win our trust by not selling our private information because they know that would lead us to use some other service. Come on, Connor. These companies, these large companies, are stealing our information and selling it to the highest bidder. They're not protected by competition. That's not working. Could you come up with a better utopia for us, please?
First off, Adam, I would say at that point that we're not, this argument here, this question one argument is not big guys versus little guys.
I'm asking you, how will you solve this problem in a way that's really satisfying? That's the question I'm asking. Leave aside the ballot question for a moment.
I'm focused on the ballot question. I am not an automotive expert. I'd have to defer to Asaf. The ballot question is my complete raison d'etre here. So I can't speak to what the utopia is. That's not my expertise.
I'll just say that I find it frustrating that you're coming and asking us to vote on something, but you don't have your own vision about what would actually make things better. You're claiming the competition would. We know, we're experienced computer people. We know that doesn't work. You need something better than that. We need a better solution to this problem. So I, for one, would ask you and your coalition to go back to the dealers and say, at least me as a customer, I'm not speaking as president of BNUG, I'm just speaking as a person. Me as a customer, I want what Jeff is talking about. I want European control over my information. I want to decide whether I want to give you my personal information or not. So please go back to the dealers and the manufacturers who are paying you and tell them that some of us really don't like this situation. And what this ballot question is doing is it's stirring it up. I agree with you, there are problems with it, but I want you to know that there's very strong feelings about privacy, and leaving it to the market, I think, is absurd.
That's fair. But I'm not saying leave the market to decide the privacy issue. I'm saying leave the market to decide the consumer access issue. First of all. Second of all,
I don't see the difference.
Okay, but second of all, it's not my role. We're here to present the reasons why not to vote for this question. We are only allowed, Massachusetts voters can only decide yes or no on the language it's on the ballot on election day. That's why I'm here to speak. I don't have a role past election day on this issue.
So that's for me very frustrating, because you're a fellow citizen and you're in the same boat that we're in. We're trying to make a better society, not win a competition. This ballot question is an effort to try to improve the legislative environment, to improve the regulatory environment. I would be grateful if you would think carefully to yourself and to the people you work with and ask yourself, am I acting in the best interest of the Commonwealth? Am I doing what's in the best interest of the citizens of Massachusetts? And I think if you can't come up with an answer to this question I'm asking, which is, what is your vision for how this is really going to work out so we're going to have real data privacy? I think you need to go back to the drawing board. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree with any of that, Adam, but that's not, my job is to argue about the ballot question, not about.
I think you should rethink your job description, is my opinion.
All right.
But I appreciate your comment very much. So, do people have any other questions for Connor before he goes?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah.
Out here, Charisse.
He's gone.
All right, a couple of things I wanted to point out.
Yes, please.
One, what turned me off on the no on one question was this immediate launching into a fear-based negative ad campaign instead of presenting the facts. Two, I asked my mechanic, who's an independent mechanic. And three, this kind of thing has been around for years. I remember a friend of mine told me he had the, remember the Saturn Sports Coupe, the little roadster? Pontiac had their own version of it. He had that car, and he was driving along once on the highway. He said he was doing about 80 miles an hour. OnStar contacted him and said, we discovered a system fault, and we're going to fix it for you while you're driving.
Oh my God.
He said that's the first time anybody has ever repaired his car while he's driving 80 miles an hour on the highway. It had something to do with the radio. And they uploaded an update to his car, and it fixed it.
And then they said, by the way, you're going too fast.
Yeah, he was definitely going too fast. I just want to pause for a moment. Do other people, would other people like to speak who have not spoken, who want to have a chance to answer this question? I'm looking around for hands, if your hands are raised. Steve Eisenberg?
Yeah, many years ago, I had a summer job. I was selling. I'm referring to your statement to the Connor that he should ask about it. And I have an analogy. Many years ago, I was selling encyclopedias. I was going door to door, and I was selling encyclopedias. But I wasn't really selling them. I was giving them away. And what happened was I went to one guy, and he says, just go through your whole spiel. And with the whole spiel, and I got to the point where I said, boy, I've said a lot of talking. Can I have a glass of water? He says, sure. You say, okay, now I'm not interested in the encyclopedia, but I want to point out what you're doing. You might be giving it away, but you're obligating me to $600 of purchases over the next 10 years, which was like $6,000 over the next 10 years right now. And it's because that guy took the time to talk to me that I realized that what I was giving away to people wasn't. It was a con. And so that might add to what you were saying to him, that maybe he should take a look at it, step back, as you said, and take a look at it and see if it makes sense to him, not just to go and be the spokesperson, but if it makes sense to start with. I'm done.
Thank you. Paul, I'll get to you in just a second. Let's see, is there anyone else who wants to speak who has not had a chance to speak? Ken, do you want to say something? You have to unmute, Ken. And you have to get off that planet. We can't have you on that planet while you're talking.
Okay. Yeah. I go along with the idea, if you're going to bring me a problem, bring me a solution. And a lot of these guys do need to back up. Let's bring a solution, not a problem. Yes, it's a problem, but how are we going to fix the darn thing? I go along with that. Over.
Thank you. Paul Roberts?
Sorry, I lost you earlier. I am sharing my home network with a bunch of streaming teenagers. First of all, we're really lucky actually to have Asaf on the line. He's one of the preeminent car security experts in the world. And Carumba is one of the most respected firms that works on automotive security. So if you aren't familiar with him, we're actually, it would be a big treat to have him in any discussion. So, and Asaf, I want to have you on my Security Ledger podcast, and we can continue this conversation there. Okay.
It will be my pleasure.
I'll reach out to you. Okay. I'd love that.
So I guess in the same spirit, no, but you have more, Paul?
Yes. So I think what I wanted to say is this has been such a great discussion, and Adam, you've done a really great job moderating, and I think what you've exposed.
I was watching Chris Wallace. I was just watching Chris Wallace.
You're gonna like this, Mr. President. You're gonna like this next question.
He described it as a missed opportunity. And I think it was Trevor Noah who said, the Hindenburg is blowing up. What a missed opportunity. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that I think this discussion has exposed is that this is a multivariate problem. And one of the big problems is we're having a discussion that is in essence about about data privacy, about individuals' rights to the ownership of their data, about the security of connected devices that all really require now and have required for a decade or more new laws to be passed to clarify these incredibly important issues that affect all of our daily lives. And simply put, those laws have not been written and they've not been passed. And by and large, because of Citizens United and resistance from the technology industry and from the large internet companies and from the appliance industry and so on. And to have this conversation absent those larger kind of structures is very hard. This question can't do everything that we need it to do. It really addresses one very narrow issue, which, as I see it, is sort of making clear that the 2013 law, that the paradigm that set up around individuals and independents, but specifically individuals, the owners of the car, having the same access to the data as the dealerships and the automakers, should also apply to this whole new world of wireless data. And it's basically trying to just port the same structure and say, you can't have proprietary interfaces. It needs to be a standard interface and standard access to data. And that's what it does. Are there problems with the way it's written? Almost certainly. Are there ambiguities about whether this is already covered in the 2013 law? Certainly. But as I see it, it's expanding a basic consumer right in the face of a trend towards greater OEM and manufacturer controlled over basically the entire life of a device. And if you want a sort of dystopian model about what a connected vehicle market absent a right to repair looks like, I would point you to the agricultural equipment market, where firms like John Deere and Caterpillar have farmers over a barrel. There is no repair option short of calling a dealer and waiting for them to send their technician out to enter in a code for you to replace whatever part or sensor has broken on your machine. And while you wait, your crops sit idle. It is to the point where farmers are obtaining hacked John Deere firmware from the Ukraine and flashing it onto their combines in order to be able to do basic repairs. That is a type of that is something that is possible, but that we really don't want to see realized. And it doesn't exist in the automotive market because of the 2013 Massachusetts law. But technology is moving a lot faster than laws are, and I think that's a basic tension that we're seeing here.
So that's someplace where our group can play a valuable role. And so I want to just step back for a moment and think about our responsibility in this.
Yeah.
And I think particularly as we have really knowledgeable people, Asaf and Brian, you're also a cybersecurity specialist. Brian Short.
Hello.
I can't hear you.
Brian, you're on mute.
Brian, can you? There you go.
I'm sorry, you were saying, Adam?
We lost Brian, but what I wanted to say is that it's.
I'm here.
Brian's here.
Here.
Brian, are you also a cybersecurity expert? Is that your role?
No, I'm with a cybersecurity expert. I open the door and I drive him wherever he needs to go.
Okay. So here's the thing.
No, but let me just put it. I'm a business guy, so let me just, if I could, I've been quiet pretty much the whole meeting. But the one thing I'm trying to, and I know Tommy argued this earlier, and I'm not saying that he's completely wrong, but this is being framed as an all or nothing proposition. And what we're saying, because again, we don't represent the coalition or anybody else. We're here as cybersecurity professionals saying, look, if you go through with the bill as it's written today, as Asaf has pointed out 2 or 3 times, it becomes an all. And it's not an all or nothing. It's an all or something today, right now, the way it is currently today. And there's a way to solve that something. And maybe, Adam, to your point, sending him back to the manufacturers and say, give us an alternative, give us a solution to the problem. We don't disagree with that. What we're saying is if it passes in its current state, the way it's currently written, you now give it all. And that is a disaster.
But Brian, that's not what laws are. The fact is that this is a referendum. Referendums by their nature are a blunt instrument. They're an effort for people to say something is not getting addressed, we need it addressed. Once you pass a referendum like this, it is completely reasonable, and I for one would totally support it as a citizen, to fine-tune this with legislation. The legislature can override anything in a referendum. So
that's what happened in 2012 and 2013. Right?
Yeah,
before the vote, and that's what I'm saying.
No, they can do it after as well. The legislature can do it after as well. So here's what I'm going to suggest. It really seems like we as a group, we as a BNUG group, and other groups like us need to play a larger role in these kinds of discussions. The debate that Asaf and I were having, and I want to thank, is he still here? Is John Niski still here? He stepped out. I want to thank John for helping getting me out of that groove there. But I think the discussion that Asaf and I were having is the sort of discussion we need to be encouraging among the citizens. We as an educational group, I think Asaf is wrong, but I think that he has really good, he's right in the sociological sense, which is that there are very powerful pressures towards automatic cars. There are very powerful pressures towards computerizing all kinds of stuff. But there are also pressures in the other direction. And I want to point out that societies can make decisions where they say, you know what, we can do this, but we're not going to. We don't think this is in the best interest of our citizenry. And I think our role is to demystify some of this. So there is, Asaf, I think what I was trying to point out is that there is a general psychological framework in our culture which says if something gets invented, it's the nature, we have to go forward with it. Everything, it's the way, you've probably heard this phrase over and over, that's the way things are going. I remember our co-op switched to electronic voting, which was, by the way, a disaster, because they said that's the way things are going. In fact, we are citizens, and it's our job to decide where things are going. And unfortunately, folks, it's our responsibility. If we let things go in a certain direction because that's where the social and economic pressures push us, and they push us into a world that doesn't work for us and our children, we're in big trouble. So I want to urge everyone to think about this discussion and think of it in the larger sense. I agree with Brian that this is a much, and also Paul, that this is a larger issue. Let's think about that issue. Let's have meetings about that issue. Let's look at legislation that's been proposed and try to understand, is Paul right? Were in these 20 legislatures, were all this digital right legislation, was it struck down by lobbyists? If so, who are these people? Why are we letting them make legislation for us instead of us making it? We need to get involved, folks. We need to get our hands dirty and try to understand what's going on here, because it's our job. It's what BNUG is an educational organization to help people understand. So I want to urge everyone to learn more about this issue, about why we're computerizing things. I, for one, was truly horrified by the video, which I'll post. It was on SSL, of a video of a car from 2014 being broken into remotely, and the brakes turned off. This is horrifying. No matter how many lives are saved by automatic cars, we know what's happened with the computers that we work with. We know the billions and billions and billions of dollars that have gone into trying to create cybersecurity that have not been successful. And so I want people to think really carefully about it, and I want us to work on it. Would other people like to weigh in on this meeting, how it's gone, what they'd like to do? Steve Eisenberg?
I just want to say that this is not just a please legislators pass a law. If this particular article passes, it does change the law.
Yes, I agree. But it can then be adjusted. The legislature can adjust the results.
No, it's a law.
The legislature can pass a law changing
like all the other laws, Adam. They can change them.
Yes.
As it goes in, it's a law.
I agree. It will become the law the day it's passed, but the legislature and us can then improve it. This is addressing Brian's point. It's not law.
But it would not change until that improvement was voted on and enacted.
That's right. Other comments from people about the meeting, about the situation?
Well, this was more interesting than I thought it would be.
Okay. Other comments?
Very good meeting. Now, like I think people were saying, what parts need to be managed to explain to people in terms of privacy of data, making sure certain parties don't get control of, don't get into the system so that they can hack into it. That's going, in terms of separating what we're looking at and being able to explain to people, that's a big thing, because you've got these folks out there who on either side are just, as typically happens, going right for the fear factor. And you don't have enough people who understand whether that's real or not, or how much it's real and how much it isn't, and what's really important.
Thank you, Norm. Martin's next, and then Hobbit, and then Steve.
I guess my two main thoughts are, number one, I'm more confused than before the meeting. Number two, I guess I haven't clearly understood from, I'll call them the advocates for mechanics, repair people, whether this saying yes on this question benefits them more than the existing legislation. At the moment, and this may change in another 5 minutes, I'm inclined to vote against this just to not add to the mess that seems to be on our plate right now.
Thank you. Hobbit?
So when I boil all this down in my mind, it really seems to be about establishing boundaries, and it's still unclear where those boundaries are. But like, a good example is, right, I've established a boundary for my own life by saying you will not have wireless access to my car. And I realize that not everybody can do that, but it requires the dealer to have the OBD2 device if they want to do anything to my car. And I'm fine with that for now. And in my next car, I may not be able to do that because the spec on the interface is going to all change. It may all be wireless and all in the cloud, like you were saying, but we still have to have that concept of boundaries there.
Thank you. Steve Provost?
Yeah. As I've been kind of chatting with Paul in the chat area, and I told him, I said, the way that I felt that I was going to vote, and I really at this time don't feel that the question really needs to be on the ballot for this year. It probably needs to go back to wherever it came from and thought out a little bit more maturely because of the way that all this data is going around, and who knows where or how someone's going to get into this data once it's put out there, because we're all like you said many times, Adam, once that data is out there, you can't bring it back, and you don't know who can get a hold of it and use it for immature ways.
Stop it.
So,
other people, other comments before we wrap up?
Stop
it. Any other thoughts about this?
Yeah, to add to Steve's point earlier, yeah, if the law passes, it goes into effect, what, November 4th?
Yeah.
But there'll still be time while they develop the software to actually implement this thing for the state legislature to make any modifications or tweaks. So I wouldn't be too concerned.
Asaf, do you want to say anything more?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say one thing regarding that future question that you asked.
Yes, please.
I think that, so first of all, I want to, give you a little bit of inside information from the discussions that we used to have with OEMs. Back then, when we were more naive and trying to build, very strong cybersecurity solutions, and went to OEMs and suggested an architecture, and they right on the spot told us, but this is against the right to repair. We cannot do it. So the OEMs take the right to repair very seriously, and they abide to it, and they think that it's important. I'm not saying that they are competitive. They will probably resell the data if they could, and all the things. They are for-profit organizations, right? But they are abiding to the law, and they do take the right to repair seriously. To the questions of the future.
Could you say a word about why your architecture would prevent the right to repair?
No, so again, as I said, it was naive. We wanted it was in-vehicle network authentication and encryption mechanism, and we suggested a way to do it in a way that only specific ECUs will be able to communicate with each other. And they said, no, we cannot do it.
Were they right in saying they could not do it, or do you think they were?
Yeah, they were right. We were blocking, independent repair shops from being able to service the car.
Why couldn't you give them encrypted access? I don't understand.
No, we could, but now the question is, how do you guarantee that the one that I'm granting access is an actual independent repair shop, or a Chinese hacking group trying to get into each and every car in the US?
How do you make that decision for a dealership?
So right now they are not. Right now they are just opening read-only information, diagnostic information, and it's completely open for hackers as well. Hackers, when researching a car, they get this information.
The logical thing I'm having trouble with this is, and then Jeff has a question. The logical thing I don't understand, and I think a lot of people said this when they read this law, which is, oh, we'll trust the dealers with the information, but not the independent ones.
No. Essentially,
you're saying that you couldn't create a secure architecture that includes the community of dealers, independent.
Yeah, so there are two parts to it. First of all, we have now the OBD port. The OBD port, you might think it's a good thing. In terms of cybersecurity, it's a bad thing. If we could eliminate it, we eliminated, a way into the car. So this will also answer your future question. If we could upload the data to the cloud, and OEMs are working on that for other reasons as well, not just for maintenance. If we could upload everything to the cloud and have that data, the access to that data solved in a strong cybersecurity way, protecting your privacy, all that of course should be taken care of, but there are solutions for that. I'm not really concerned. I just want to separate the data from the car, right? Read the data, analyze it, understand the problem. Now go fix the car with your 10 fingers, right? Something that the Chinese group from China cannot do. They don't have the 10 fingers on the ECU, right? And the access should be solved in the cloud. And this is something Tesla can do as well. Everybody can do it. Currently, the language of the law says grant access to the vehicle in a standardized way, allowing us to send commands. All that is just, I understand the naive point of view saying if we'll have that in writing and OEMs obey to the law, they will not be able to somehow futuristically, take everything out of the car and we're left with nothing, and the independent dealerships will be closed. I think that the language of the law just didn't solve the problem. They should have asked for access to the data, remotely or whatever, and leave the car out of the equation. When you leave the car out of the equation, cybersecurity concerns are out of the equation, and then we can, start discussing the data. What about privacy? What about all that? But there are good solutions for that. So we could have solved that.
Did the yes people consult you, Asaf?
No.
I'm sorry about that. Jeffrey?
A couple of things, after listening to Asaf, the first thing that comes is, you made the comments that in your experience, the manufacturers are so committed to, open repair rights that, they'll fight anything that, that even begins to oppose that. And the other gentleman, 20 minutes ago was telling me how the OBD port is now a firewall in the latest cars.
But it wasn't against the right to repair. Maybe they view it. So from their point of view, it's something that, I don't know, blocked them. I don't know exactly what did. Well,
I'm just saying, to me, it's two completely opposing opinions, right down to whether or not, it is or not. And I guess my second question to you is, why you consider that port, such a bad idea. And I acknowledge, it has no protection at all on it. As soon as you plug into it, that it's wide open and all the information is there. By the same token, it's physically under the steering wheel. If nobody has the ability to get in my car and plug
other than insurance plugs, and that there are now plugs that you can plug into the car and turn it on remotely from your app. There are convenience apps. So if you have a plug that's transmit Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever it is, even telematics, and you can connect to it remotely, hackers from China can connect.
Sure.
Well, that I understand. I know a lot of companies that the first or second round of vehicle tracking, that's exactly what they did. Is they got a plug that they plugged into that port that had a wireless transmitter, and that's how companies managed to do cheap, fleet tracking. But again, it was with their permission.
Yes, with their permission. We're gonna wrap up in about 5 minutes. Paul has something to say. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken much or wants to weigh in before we wrap up? I really appreciate everyone coming tonight and being part of this. I hope this will be this has been recorded and will be put up in the archives for people to review and also to share with other people who are voting to have, so they will share in our confusion. And we'll be a community of confused voters. But I think there's also been some clarity that's come through as well. I feel like I understand some of the issues better. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to everybody is, as I said earlier, this is a early skirmish in a much larger battle. And if you are an information technology or security professional, I would ask you to visit securerepairs.org and maybe become one of our members. And the battle is simply this. And again, as I said before, the battle is taking place in the absence, really, in the total abdication of Washington, D.C., of our federal government in wading into these, admittedly, and state governments as well, wading into these waters and setting some guideposts and some guardrails around issues like data privacy, cybersecurity, civil liberties, and everything else. You know, the fact that the police can get access to GPS data and figure out, you know, if you were in proximity to, you know, some incident that happened. I think it's great if you catch a murderer, but of course, there might be use cases there that I don't support from a civil liberty standpoint. The law is silent on this by and large, and our lawmakers have failed us. They are not setting up the guardrails and the boundaries that we need to help us navigate this very, very complicated future that we're entering of the Internet of Things. I would say that McKinsey has estimated the value of automotive data at $750 billion by 2030. I would say that today, and Asaf can check me on this, that your vehicle is sending, if it's a late model vehicle, is sending on the order of gigabytes of data to the automaker's cloud for every hour of operation.
For BMW, I know it for a fact.
Yeah.
I don't know regarding most
Right.
of the rest.
As consumers,
Paul, could you give that figure one more time?
1
gigabytes of data per hour of operation.
Per hour?
Per hour.
Yeah.
Per hour.
Adam?
Your car can tell you, your car can identify not only where you live and work and where you work out, but how much you weigh, the seat position you use. If there are cameras on board, as there are, and in the cabin, as there are in the Tesla, there is, of course, a potential that there could be video streams that are being consumed and analyzed for inferences about you and your behaviors and your likes and interests.
And
And we don't have, excuse me, we don't have any idea as consumers what data these vehicles are collecting, how it's being stored, how it's being secured at rest and in transit, and how it might be sold or resold to insurance companies, to law enforcement, to private companies, what have you. This is a huge area. This ballot initiative addresses a very, very narrow slice of that data that is related to repair and maintenance, fluid levels, diagnostic codes.
But
the question at stake is so much larger than that. And as consumers, I think our attitude should not be that Detroit knows best and is going to look out for our interests. I think we need very toothy, very strong laws to protect our privacy, our civil rights, and our liberties, and our safety. And I would not count on the private sector to do it for us.
Yes, I agree. Jeffrey?
Enough.
Yeah, but this is all happening on a car that is running perfectly, has nothing wrong with it, and that this is all wrapped up in a right to repair bill.
Well, the ballot initiative does what it does, and it doesn't do what it doesn't do. It very clearly is regarding repair and maintenance data, and the only difference between this and the 2013 law is really about how that data is transmitted. And it's really, I think, about repair shops getting access to these repair clouds in anticipation, again, of the fact that they don't feel confident that they're going to be able to have access via the OBD port or via the existing access that they're given going forward. So I think they're trying to inoculate themselves against a future in which they worry that they're going to be cut out of the loop. And again, this law was passed in 2013. There should be a federal equivalent of this law. Nothing has happened since then, and it's because of Citizens United and the power of large corporations to bend lawmakers away from pro-consumer.
Paul, it's
Why
not-
is Massachusetts law, and in fact, a de facto federal standard? That is a disgrace. I'm glad we have it, but it's a disgrace.
Not just Citizens United. The disgrace, I don't really think disgrace is probably the most constructive way of seeing it. But the problem is that we citizens have not exercised our power properly. I think that's and so what I want to say about this law is that it's actually an effort for us to begin to say, we care about this. It's not an ideal law, and I want to encourage everyone to vote according to your conscience and your wisdom based on what we've talked about and other things you learned. But I do want to say that I'm impressed that people care about this, that people have come out to talk about it and argue about it. I'm impressed that we're a society that has the potential. Citizens United is something that works in a vacuum, Paul. The reason why expensive advertising is successful is because people don't do their job as citizens. The way to deal with Citizens United and all this stupid lobbying and obnoxious behavior, and companies saying, oh, we're here acting in your best interest and we're competing with each other, don't worry about it. The way to react to that is to say, baloney. We want to know what's going on. We want to know what you're doing with our data, and we own the place. You're doing this stuff in our house, and we want control. And so I urge everyone to take this as a lesson in getting involved. And I'm really pleased that people have come.
And thank God for Massachusetts. I think the point I was trying to make is people all over this country go and get their car service at independent repair shops, and they can do it only because this thin thread of a consumer right law that passed in this state in 2012 exists. If it didn't exist, we'd be in the same situation that the farmers are in with Caterpillar and Deere. There would be no difference between the automotive market and the agricultural equipment market. It's only because the Massachusetts voters voted for this and the legislature modified it and passed it. I don't think people realize that. And it is the thinnest of threads.
And it underlines the importance of us getting more involved. And so I, for one, urge us as a BNUG.
SecureRepairs.org.
Yes, visit Paul's site and also get involved in these questions. The way to have a society that really works is for each of us to take some responsibility and not to say someone will take care of it. Yes, Hobbit. Do you want to say that? Hobbit, you're going to get the last word because we're going to close after your time.
A quick point is you can't just do this at the state level. It's got to be nationwide because of all the reasons that we've gone over.
Thank you. Vote November 3rd, please, everyone. We've got to stop. I hope everyone has a